Now, what you're about to see are some incredibly real special effects.
And the Arizona State Police was calling. Their missing persons department was calling. The Mortuary Society of America called, said it was unethical and dishonest and illegal.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Flesh and Blood and Bone podcast, a father-daughter duo podcast where my dad, special effects makeup artist Tony Gardner, is now your dad. I have a new intro for us because I'm here to share my dad's knowledge and wisdom with you all.
Wow.
Yes, it's very exciting.
So serious.
And today's episode is on Three Kings, which my dad had a part of doing some crazy special effects, practical effects that were done at the time in 1999. And I'm just going to read you a little bit about the movie and why this episode is really important. Three Kings, a movie that looks like a war film, moves like a heist, and slowly reveals itself as something much darker and more political. Released in 1999 and directed by David O. Russell, Three Kings takes place in the immediate aftermath of the Gulf War, following 4 American soldiers who stumble upon a map leading to stolen Kuwait gold. What starts as greed and bravado quickly turns into a confrontation with real human cost of war. What's powerful about Three Kings is that it didn't try to rewrite how people felt about the Gulf War. It just cracked open the story they'd been given. At a time when the war was still framed as a clean, quick, and morally settled, this movie shifted the focus to bodies, civilians, and the aftermath instead of victory and technology. It destabilized the narrative by showing the human costs that had been left out, and that planted a kind of doubt rather than an argument. Over time, as more conflicts unfolded, that crack widened and the film started to feel less provocative and more honest in hindsight. The characters then seem like they are the outlier, whereas today they might be seen as standard and not pushed far enough. Sadly, this is a movie that was made over 25 years ago and still feels really relevant today, given everything that's going on. Just as a disclaimer before we really get into this episode, I wanted to let you know that there are going to be graphic images from the film and from the behind the scenes that my dad has done that make my toes cringe. So that if that's something that you don't want to see, this is your time to maybe check out one of our other episodes. And also a reminder to YouTube and the YouTube gods to let them know that everything you see that we are showing you is fake, nothing is real, and there's a fun story behind that later on in the episode. So let's get to it. Dad.
Yes.
As somebody who's worked in practical effects that force audiences to actually look at the consequences of violence, what stood out to you when we rewatched this film?
I think for me, it's going back to what David O. Russell said in the very beginning when we were doing this, which was every bullet hit has a consequence.
Oh, he said that.
Yeah, basically. And he wanted to see what it did to people, both literally, physically, as well as emotionally and in their lives. Every time a shot is fired, there is a consequence to it.
I know this film was pushing the boundaries and doing a lot of stuff that was different than what normal war movies were doing. He was like David O. Russell was very specific about like the color grading and the style of filming, and just speaking to that of like every bullet has a consequence. There's this amazing sequence where it's really tense and the 4 soldiers are in conflict with Saddam's like army men and Iraq citizens, and you don't know what's going to happen. And then one of Saddam's men is trying to like shoot George Clooney, but George Clooney has his hand on his gun and he makes him shoot himself. And Mark Wahlberg's like,
What's happening? Accident, stay cool.
and then one by one, like guns start going off and you get to see like there was this whip pan and all these beautiful things that's like you see exactly, you know, who it's hitting. It's a reveal, what the effect is. Like it's deep.
Yeah, it shows who did it, and then you whip pan to the person who's getting hit, and you hear the crack of it and the speed of it, and it's very raw. But the whole movie was designed to look raw. Thomas Newton and the DP and David did so many tests in the beginning out in the desert just to figure out how they were going to make it feel stark and feel dry and washed out by the sun. And they ended up doing this bleach by process on the film to give it this sort of washed out and contrasty look. At the same time, David wanted to stylize the color of the blood so that it was dark enough where it was literally almost the color of oil. So that there was a commentary there as well. So we tested all of these different colors to figure out what read properly on camera, and then with the bleach by process, what stayed dark so that it was still really contrasty on the human skin. So there was this effort made to immerse you in this very specific reality, which I thought was really cool. And then he went the extra mile, and a lot of the townspeople that take the journey with them, a lot of them were first-time actors. They didn't have that much on-camera experience, but a lot of them had actually lived the experience of being evacuated and having their towns invaded. And they brought a lot of their personal experiences to set and a lot of their personal stories.
Wow.
And you can see it in their eyes a lot of times. And a lot of times after they would yell cut, everybody would get really quiet and really calm, because it just weighed more on them. And I think that's why it feels so real. And I feel like that's why it's still relevant. I feel like it still tells a human story on top of everything else that's going on. You really learn about all the people that are involved and what it means to put compassion over greed, basically, through these different people's perspectives. And I think that that's pretty cool.
I want to still start at the beginning.
Do you want to go before the beginning and talk about why you're dressed the way you are?
Yes. So every episode, I try to dress up as something my dad has done in the film. This was the only appropriate thing I could think to dress up in a film that's so real and heavy. And so there's this cow that explodes on a landmine.
Yeah. They're going to do target practice and it backs up onto a landmine.
Yes. So I'm the deceased cow is my costume today. I have some blood on my cow onesie that we just did specially for you listening to this. So you're welcome. It's sticky. I want to get more into how the color grading process affected your prep and your work. But to get to the beginning of it all, how did you come onto this project? Like, how did you know?
How did I get called for this?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I really don't remember who reached out to me.
But you hadn't worked with David O. Russell before?
No, I had not.
Okay.
I think it might have been Gregory Goodman, one of the producers, reaching out. It was him and Charles Roven. They were saying that they wanted a breakdown for the makeup effects, as well as an exploding cow and a bunch of pelicans. And there was a part of a zebra in the first version of it.
Oh.
The script went through a lot, even in the process of making the movie. It started, if I'm recalling correctly, it started as a story written by John Ridley. And I want to say something was based off of an article that maybe he wrote. I'm just going to dig my own grave here, apparently. But I think this started as an article and then a short story, or maybe it was just a short story by John Ridley. And then it was turned into a script. And then David took the script and it started to veer more out of a war movie and more into a heist movie, really. Yeah. With these four odd characters that have to figure out how to work together. And then as we were filming, people really got into character and brought so much more. And I remember stuff was added, lines were added and things were added as we were going. So it was super ambitious the entire time.
Oh, wow.
And then we were outdoors and you're always playing Beat the Sun. So It was like the mornings would start out fairly relaxed. And then the last half hour of the day, you'd be getting 10 shots because you had to, sort of a thing.
This is when most of the work gets done in this picture. It's usually about 10 minutes of light, and we get about 15 shots.
Yeah, shooting in the sun is like the worst, especially when there's no cloud coverage, because like from 12 to like 1:32, everything looks ugly because the shadows are directly like the sun's directly above you, and then the morning's great, and then the afternoon's great, but then the sun sets a lot quicker than you realize.
Yeah.
And also, you guys were at the face of like the elements. It was shot. It didn't take. They didn't shoot the film in Iraq. Obviously, they filmed in Arizona, but
Right.
it was like in the middle of nowhere.
It was a abandoned copper mine, and the ground around it was basically polluted.
Oh my God.
So nothing grew. So Catherine Hardwick, the production designer, wanted something where there was really no green. And because of this mine, there was really no green. But there was also a lot of stuff that would blow in the air that looking back at it now, it's like we probably all should have been in masks the whole time,
Yeah.
because there was a storm that came through once, like a windstorm, and it messed up a whole bunch of the set, but things would blow away, and there was no protection from the sun.
That's great for you.
Yeah, it kept everybody fairly dehydrated most of the time. So the days, by the end of the day, everybody was pretty wiped.
Yeah. What do you remember kind of having a lengthy shooting schedule or, considerably short given the circumstances?
I think for us, it was normal because we were in and out, because there wasn't stuff happening all the time.
I see.
And stuff like inside the body was controlled, and we didn't shoot it out in the desert. But I remember the schedule changing. Like your older brother had a birthday party and on a weekend, and I got a call during the birthday party, and all these kids were going to sleep over, and they asked me to be in Arizona the next morning. They're like, "Hey, we want to blow up the cow tomorrow." And it wasn't scheduled for that day, but sometimes it's per the weather. The next day morning, all these kids are here, and I'm abandoning ship. I left in such a rush, I forgot to take like a change of clothes, not thinking I'm blowing up a cow, and this is what happens. And that's what I looked like all over my clothes, because Marty Breslin, the special effects guy, who's genius on this show, did all the car stuff and the explosions in the air and everything. We had this, what was essentially like a cutout of a cow that was set up in the dirt, but he had buried all these air mortars in the ground that were basically giant tubes that you could stick your arm into this deep.
Oh, wow.
And we packed them full of polyfoam and silicone intestines and just shredded like pieces of what was supposed to be cow parts and fur and stuff like that. And we would get all that stuff in there. And then before we went, we would stir it all, we put our arms in and we would stir it all up so that everything wasn't settled to the bottom, so that the explosion would be bigger. So there's like 6 of these in a row, and we're all doing all this stuff. And it's all live, and there's explosives under all of, the charge to blow them out. It's all air. But you're still sticking your arm into the barrel of this cannon, getting all that stuff ready. And then once it blew up, it literally went everywhere. The cow disappeared. All this stuff went everywhere. And then all the stuff that you see landing is all just chunks of polyfoam. Some of the stuff that we had was really big. In the explosion, shredded even smaller. There was that much force behind it. So it really launched everything super high, and it came down as rain all over everybody and the Jeep and everything else. And then David wanted to have the cow head as a separate item land on the roof of the car. So after the explosion was done, we set up scaffolding around the Jeep that they're in so that we could continue to drop stuff on them and then drop the cow head. So by the time all this is done and you're out in the dirt and the wind and everything's blowing, you're covered in blood that's dried and it's dirty and everything's all wrinkly. And I washed my face and my hands and then realized I needed to drive all the way home. I realized I probably should have put gas in my car before I got to set. I had to stop on the way home and actually put gas in my car, looking like a mass murderer. So I remember sneaking behind the gas pumps to get to the front door and then trying to be small behind the counter and pay
Oh my God.
so that you couldn't see all the blood all over me because I didn't even have anything to put over top of it.
Oh my gosh.
You know? So that was the worst part of all of it was trying to get home. And then when I got home, it was just, get in the shower and clean off. But every day was a ton of dirt and
So dirty.
some sort of blood. But we came in and out a lot. So as far as continuity for us, we were kind of inconsistent. The regular makeup department handled all of the small cuts and bruises and stuff like that. And the guys each had like their own makeup artist for their continuity.
Okay.
So we would just come in if they had to wear something prosthetic, like when Spike, when he gets the shrapnel in his eye, when there's that explosion, there's a wound that goes through a couple stages that I came in and did. And then we were supposed to actually do a dead body of him for them to carry around.
Oh yeah, because he
which
dies.
is why we life cast him.
Oh, you did a life cast of him.
Yeah, so we thought we were going to build a whole body of them with like a loose jointed neck and stuff. And then I think they ended up just taking one of the stunt dummies from the stunt trailer and because his body ends up being 100% wrapped up.
Yeah.
And just wrapped that up and that became Spike's body instead.
Spoilers, Dad.
Yeah, I know.
No.
Spike dies.
Spike Jonze's character passes away, sadly.
Yeah.
But you should definitely go watch the movie if you haven't. It's really good. It's so funny. There's so many people on this film that not only are so talented, but that you continued to work with and continue to work with in your career. Like this is where you met Spike Jonze and you've done all the stuff with Jackass and, Spike produces for them and was also an old lady that you made him into. And then Catherine Hardwicke, once again, is production designing something so beautiful that you're on with her again. And
so Freaked was first. That's where I met Catherine Hardwicke. So for all I know, Catherine Hardwicke could have been how I ended up on being introduced to these people.
Oh.
Because she's the only person on that crew that I knew prior. Yeah.
Maybe it's Catherine's doing.
Maybe so, yeah.
We'll have to get her on the podcast. To segue us just for a second, there's this awesome behind the scenes on YouTube that you can watch that I'll put clips in of the video portion of this podcast of Spike Jonze following Catherine Hardwicke around the whole set of Three Kings. And she just deep dives into it. And you can see how detail oriented she is as like just a human and a production designer, and it's like, wow, that totally carries through to her directing style.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
And we like tapped right into a network of people that were Iraqi Shiite refugees that had been over there during the revolution. And one guy in particular, he came down and actually did the graffiti for us on the set, the revolutionary graffiti, and he got very emotional. He said, my brother and I personally defaced 300 murals in Iraq during the revolution.
And just her ability to use a dollar to get so
far.
Yeah, get so much out of it, because she designed the city as basically sort of like a central hub, and then streets that went off from that central hub. So if you were in the middle, you could just rotate the camera and you're shooting down a different street.
So smart.
Yeah, it's just really, really great.
To go in order of practical effects to walk through, there's a lot to go through. There's a major one. This episode is also fun because this is the story of the time my dad was investigated by the FBI.
That is true.
And you'll get to hear all about that.
And the Mortuary Society of America.
There you go, the Mortuary Society of America. So stay tuned for that. But before we get to being investigated by the FBI, the very first gag of yours is literally the first scene of the movie where Mark Wahlberg's character is going. And it's just such a good scene. He's like, are we shooting? And all the other soldiers are like not really invested or paying attention. And he's like, all right, I'm going to shoot, because the guy who is probably a civilian has a gun, but it's not pointed at Mark Wahlberg. He technically has a white flag in his hand, and Mark Wahlberg shoots the guy in the jugular. Mm-hmm. So I assume that was a neck prosthetic of yours. Yeah,
we did a big neck prosthetic on him with a tube, and he's supposed to bleed out basically on camera.
It looks really good.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
he was great too. He really sold it.
Yeah. And then it's like you see the impact, the consequence of that
Right.
choice. And then it pans up to Mark Wahlberg, and he's just like, "Ugh," and then it freeze frames and has this awesome like style of telling us who all the characters are. The title card is pretty great.
Yeah.
So we started off strong.
Yeah.
And
We come back to that and see
Yes.
that again later in Spike's character's perspective.
yes, sort of like Spike's character's recounting of this story. And he's like, yeah, it was crazy. His head popped off, which you had to do that gag. And it's very, I would say purposefully a little over the top.
Oh, it's super
cartoony.
cartoony.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be this goober's take on it, and it's literally cartoony where the guy doesn't get shot in the neck and there's a explosion there. The guy gets shot and his head pops off into the air about 6 feet, rolls around and lands. His arms are waving around and he's shooting blood. They wanted it literally like a garden hose out of the neck stump in a clean line, and then the body just falls over and collapses. So we use a very familiar rig, also known as the Billy Butcherson Headless rig, aka the sockhead from Freaked.
Wow, you're just reusing
Rig.
that. It's a good rig.
Also known as the Three Kings I Pop My Head Off rig. And we got Misty Rosas to be the stunt person in the rig and do the whole shoot the head off. And that was just launched under pressure. And then she takes a fall. And she's standing on a slope. So the tubes for the blood just went down her leg and to the backside of that little hill. And there's somebody right there
Wow.
with a giant plunger just going for a hose kind of vibe out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Was it a one take wonder, or did you guys do it again?
I think it was only one time.
That makes sense. I
Actually.
feel like you probably only had time for one,
Yeah.
knowing all the elements at
Yeah.
stake. Also, shooting on film, so expensive.
Yeah, and they shot a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of like running where the takes go for a really long time.
Yeah.
So a lot of film was used on if they wanted to repeat stuff like that.
Yeah. That's crazy. I was wondering how you guys did that because the body's standing up, but of course it's the Billy Butcherson
Yeah.
rig.
Work with what you know.
Exactly. And then of course the next thing is the cow. The cow accidentally backs up into a landmine, which we kind of covered. But I was watching the behind the scenes and some of the actors were like, yeah, they threw meat at us.
I know they thought it was like real meat, but it was fake meat. It was literally quite a bit of it was polyfoam, shredded polyfoam. It had been tinted red, a red and black swirl, and then shredded up so that it would compress like meat, but it wouldn't really absorb the blood like foam latex sponge would. So we could pack a lot of stuff in there and it would launch clean without picking up a lot of weight from the blood.
Oh.
And then there was bits of fur, and then we had a bunch of silicone intestines that we threw in there as well. And they were all long and connected and looked really beautiful. And then we launched them, and they ended up just in pieces
In the air.
in the air.
You breathed it in.
Yeah,
Yum, yum.
yeah.
Knowing the actors, they've probably been like, they were real intestines. Oh my God. It's so dramatic.
But it's great that they bought into it.
That's true. It probably
You know?
helped the performance.
Yeah.
Thinking it was real. You
Yeah.
know what? Next time I'm just going to say, like, if it's something I'm directing that's that, I'm going to be like, this was real shit, guys.
Well, we would joke around about stuff being real sometimes too, and that didn't really work very well.
That's
So
fair.
They came back to bite us on this one.
Yeah. And the use of a real cow's head, I asked you about this, but you
Oh,
can
yeah.
tell our audience here. I was like, how do you, because if you make any movie, especially nowadays, like for me, for my movie, we have an animal like a real animal in it at some point, and you have to get your certification like stamp logo at the end of your credits of like, no animals were actually harmed
Right.
in this movie. So how does that come into play when it's actually a real dead cow's head?
Well, it's like going to a slaughterhouse and buying
Chicken.
what's left over. Like in old horror films, I used to go buy the intestines and everything from a slaughterhouse and use those in a movie.
Gross. Wait,
Eh,
really?
Yeah, there's a lot
Ew.
of old movies where, or like Return of the Living Dead, where they're eating sheep's brains, and stuff like that, where the
That was
extras
real?
are actually eating real brains.
Ew.
Yeah, there's a lot of farmland out in that area, and there was a slaughterhouse where they were able to get They didn't know what exactly they needed, but David was really into the idea of a real head with real horns, being able to land hard on the roof of the car and maybe even dent it, and not come apart as a prop. He's like, well, if this is the refuse from this place, let's go buy some of their trash and use it as a prop. It wasn't David, it was the props department. And then we were tasked with matching the paint color on the head, because the one that they got from the slaughterhouse didn't have the same pattern with the white. So we had to like paint all that in. But when they dropped it, it weighed a solid, 15 pounds or whatever, and really hit hard. And they were able to, in one take, be able to have it land and then grab the horns and pull it off the car and have the integrity of a real thing. And I think that's cool. Really what they wanted. So that part of it became the prop department as opposed to us. And then we were just there to help with continuity, essentially.
Do you know who threw the head?
No idea.
Dang. Now, before we get into the meat, pun intended, because we just talked about the cow, of all the crazy special effects, the next sort of piece that comes up for your team is such a powerful moment in the movie. It's some Iraq civilians are sort of semi-taken hostage by Saddam's army, and George Clooney is making the decision on if they're going to stay and help the civilians or prioritize the gold that they just found and stole from there and leave. And the sort of determining factor of where the story goes is in this moment where a mother is grabbed and the child is separated from her, and it's horrible. And the child is screaming, and one of Saddam's guys just comes in and point blank shoots the mom in the head.
Side of the head, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's sort of what motivates this entire cacophony of bullets and hitting each other, and like the initial showdown that then sends the movie on its next chapter. So that's your guys' team doing a lot of these squibs.
We did a bullet hit if it sprayed blood.
Okay.
Or if you saw the wound.
I see.
And if it was someone getting hit where it's just a squib, that would be the special effects department.
I see.
By themselves. We all just had to make sure all our blood colors matched, so that we were getting the right color values for what David or Russell wanted.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you think that's easy, like, oh, we just needed to match the blood. Like, no, it's actually really hard, especially if multiple people are handling it.
And if it's vaporizing, it's going to read a little bit different than when you're pumping it out like a faucet.
Right.
And so it's like just making sure that you have some options to play with. And if you're putting it on a person with lighter skin
versus
it's going to read
skin.
different. So it's like, how do you balance that out to make there be a consistency in the blood? Because he wanted the blood to kind of be its own character in a way.
And it is.
Yeah.
Do you remember working with that woman?
No, it was just we built a lot of that kind of stuff generically.
I see.
And then it would be rigged to whomever. We did hang out with a lot of the people that make the trip with him, though, and got to know some of them. And they told stories about their lives or their family members' lives that were just really sobering.
Yeah.
To listen to all the time. Some of those people have been through quite a bit, and just amazing humans.
Yeah. You know? And for first time actors are really good.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just really believe it, and you believe it because they unfortunately had to live it, which is so sad, but it's so like we just keep coming back to like real. This movie feels very real.
Yeah. The idea wasn't to sensationalize anything, to kind of show it for the human side.
You get to like really have the curtain pulled back of like the nuance of everything. And on that very sad note, my question is related though. When you're dealing with a movie that's such heavy of a topic and scenes, did you see anything that was like sort of helpful or useful? I'm asking for myself, of like kind of like to lift the mood, or is that sort of like inappropriate for something that's so heavy?
I think everybody processed everything in different ways, but I think there was so much to do every day and so much to be focused on
Yeah.
that I think everybody's focus was get this done, make our day. They'd already done all their like prep work, and the guys had a military advisor, and they had done a bunch of stuff in advance.
Yes.
It was sort of like military training just to get them in the headspace to like stand the right way and hold a gun the right way and all that. And all the guns all the time, everything was real. It had the real weight.
Ooh.
So it was like everything just felt very grounded. And Catherine's sets were
So beautiful.
100% complete from any angle, so they could be shot from any angle. So it was very much like you were immersed in this reality. And then
Wow.
at the same time, you're this group of people in this reality trying to accomplish a goal by the end of the day, every day. And that became the sort of driving factor for most of us.
Did you go to the premiere of this and see it on the big screen?
I didn't go to the premiere, but I did see it on the big screen. Yeah.
Yeah. And is that something that you were really proud of that you all accomplished?
Yeah. I thought we'd done a lot of stuff that looked really real, and the whole bullet, everything inside the body had never been done before. CG didn't exist.
Right.
You know, I mean, it existed in a very simplistic way. Like when you see the fires burning off in the distance, they had a bunch of, I want to say, I think it was all just tires and stuff burning. And they would take that and they would duplicate some of those smoke stacks, for lack of a better word, just to put more off in the
Sure.
distance. But it was really just simple stuff like that. There was no idea of anything that could be done
In a
within the
bigger-
context of the story
Yeah.
that would make a difference. And
And it was also really expensive if you were doing that stuff.
yeah,
at that
back
time.
then, yeah.
Yeah. It was really interesting seeing some of the behind the scenes. They did have two that I know of military advisors, Jim Parker and John, I hope I say it right, Rotger. I hope I got that right, John. But it's really cool how immersed you all became. And I was watching the behind the scenes, and Catherine Hardwicke purchased a spy camera. And she's so good at models, this woman. She built a model of the main village city, and she took the spy camera and put it in, and you could hook it up to a monitor. This is like the 90s. And so you could see what shots you were going to get. You could storyboard and literally previs before
Yeah, we were going to
previs
use that
existed.
camera originally to try and get the bullet through the body shot.
You were?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so funny.
It was one of the ideas because it had never been done. And David was always like, so how are you going to do that shot?
You're like-
and we had a list of a bunch of different ideas. And it's like, we're going to try different things out. But
Yeah.
the reality is if you want to be inside somebody, there's got to be an opening
To
big
see
enough
it.
to see what's happening.
Yeah.
Because, we were talking about the whole idea of, there was a book where a photographer had shot a bullet through an apple
Oh.
and captured it in slow motion. And you saw the one side of the apple exploding out from the impact and the other side exploding really big from the exit and the bullet exiting. It happened so fast that there was both things in that still photo at the same time. It's like,
Oh.
that's what we want to get. That's the idea, is that bullet, if you could do something in bullet time, what would that be? And where would it go? And what would the path be?
Yeah.
And then we had to determine, if George Clooney's describing the bullet going into the body, it's going to go from Mark Wahlberg's left side to his right side. And what's the line of organs
Yeah. So we should
in
just
that path? So
Yeah, we should talk about it because we're already talking about it. So there are several shots in this movie that show the anatomy, like the camera is basically inside a body, and it shows you the impact, the real impact of what these bullets are doing and things like that. And the first one is sort of in these similar to Spike Jonze's sort of fantasy recounting of the head being popped off. This is another instance where it's not actually happening, but it's very real this time. Is he's describing a bullet going through a body and something that happens called sepsis. So can you walk us through how the heck in the 90s you did this shot that's so beautiful of a bullet going through Mark Wahlberg's body in sort of real time / slow motion, and like the vial that comes out. How the hell did you figure it out?
Well, there was a bunch of us working on it. Jim Beinke was the main one dealing with the bullet track and the bile that came out of.
Oh, bile. I said vial.
Close enough.
Close enough.
But he was dealing with that end of it. And then we had, let me back up.
Have you ever had a dream?
No. Have you ever seen those anatomy bodies where it's open in the front half? There was one in a lot of medical schools, and you can take the organs out. And when you take all the organs out, you're left with this hollow shell that, is basically representational of the back half of the rib cage.
Yes.
And the back half of the torso. And it makes sort of like this bowl. The idea was, okay, if you take that idea and you sculpt a full-size version of that, and then you tip it back, you literally have a bowl.
Oh.
That you could then hang a camera directly on top of to shoot straight down into. Now you have this whole bowl that's a person's interior that you can do a performance in. So we sculpted all the organs separate. We had the heart sculpted so that it mounted into the back of the bowl, which is fiberglass. Mm-hmm. And the heart was silicone so that the chambers could pump, and it could also be used later for when the air embolism happens in Mark Wahlberg. Mm-hmm. The heart had enough fluidity to be able to push itself off to the side, which was us just puppeteering from below the bowl.
Oh my God.
So we've got this bowl with this heart, and then we added in the lungs. The lower intestine, we sculpted the intestines mostly as a group. The liver, the gallbladder, and the stomach, everything was separate, but they were all connected together. Then it was, where do we want the track of the bullet to go through? If we're going to hit the gallbladder, the line has to be here. So it's going to go through these organs. So then we cast a bunch of those organs hollow and designed them so that they could split. We had basically a track underneath it with a pole that came up with a bullet on it. We could move the bullet through the bowl.
Whoa.
So it's like a boat, traveling through the water, but the water is these organs basically, and they're all suspended in goo. And
how did you hold that in there? Do you have a piece of plexiglass holding it?
No, it was, the bottom we had to puppeteer through. So we were putting all the slime and everything in to fill it up, to fill all the gaps and stuff. It was obviously leaking out of the bottom.
Oh.
But you could take the super slime, and Jim Beinke came up with this idea, and he's like, basically you roll the super slime up and you stretch it out, and right before the shot, you put a membrane over the whole thing that is this literal membrane of goo, and then try and get that shot before everything pops.
Oh my God.
So, and the bile was a liquid that was shot up against that sort of membrane. So there's fluidity to everything, and it had a very organic look. And this was all the organs were cast in silicone. This is the first time silicone was really being used for us, and it was perfect for all the organs. And the bullet, it was literally just on a metal post that went to a track underneath, and you puppeteered it going through. And then everybody from below could puppeteer the organs separating, and the bile tract opening, and then the liquid coming out. So it was kind of like a weird performance in an organ bowl.
An organ bowl.
And then looking at it from straight down, the illusion is that it's all happening in somebody that's standing up. So all that stuff is sort of suspended in air the way it would be inside a body.
So gravity is sort of also helping you.
Yeah. Whereas if we'd tried to do it standing up, gravity would have worked against us, and everything would have wanted to fall out
of your body.
So that worked out great. And then the lungs were designed to inflate.
Yes. There's this separate instance where Mark Wahlberg gets shot for real, and he gets shot and one of his lungs sort of like collapses. And if you're watching this, I'm making a lot of faces, and that's because I think this is so disgusting. And I'm so desensitized by everything you have done except for this in 127 hours. Like, I wanted to like throw up watching the lung thing. Like, I'm here. I'm just making a lot of facial expressions because it kind of makes me want to, like, my toes are curled right now. So anyhow, so the heart later was helpful. And then there's this separate shot with this lung collapse.
Yeah.
Okay.
And originally we were like, well, maybe we'll use a medical camera to do this.
Or Catherine's
so we
spy
could be really
camera.
close. Well, that's what that was.
Oh.
It's one of those cameras that you put inside a body to do surgery.
Oh.
With a light on it.
Oh, God.
So I was like, well, that was an option in the beginning. And then we came up with this whole like life-size thing. At one point, we actually discussed doing it slightly larger than life-size so we could control it more and there could be more detail. No. But just the weight and unwieldiness of everything, it was better to keep it at normal size and easier to sculpt and all that. I mean, now, you know, there's scans of organs and you could literally take a scan of a real organ and 3D print it and mold it and stuff like that. But at the time it was, okay, let's get these medical books and let's figure out what the interior of a body looks like. And Stephen Corbett was the head of ER at the time at Loma Linda. Dr. Stephen Corbett. Doctor. Was the head of ER at Loma Linda Emergency. And he was dealing with a lot of gang stuff at the time. Oh. And he was helping educate me what things really look like inside. He's like, what you see in a textbook is something that's like days or weeks old or it's preserved or whatever. And the colors are different. And when you open somebody up fresh, it's more like, I remember him saying, it's kind of like opening up a pearl. Like an oyster, there's almost a pearlescence to the colors and an almost metallic sheen sometimes and a brightness to everything. And then if you've got fat in there, it's this color. And just, he at one point took photos in ER that were just meant for us to look at. And we weren't allowed to keep. Of course. But it was like, here, you weren't here when we had to do this. This is what it looks like. These are the colors when it's fresh. And then he had to destroy the photos. But it was like he gave us the ability to try and make it more realistic so that the medical community watching it would be part of the experience as opposed to pulling out of the story because they would be going, well, this is obviously fake. That's not real. It wouldn't happen that way. The goal was to make doctors feel uncomfortable. Oh, but I think you succeeded in making everybody feel uncomfortable. He really explained how things worked in the real world in the immediate moment during surgery and stuff like that. He explained a thoracotomy and how things are opened and how you get to stuff and how you can actually see stuff the way it's meant to be seen. And an operating room is sterile and all that. So it's really easy to, and they have to jack a chest really wide open. So it was just invaluable information. So we used all that. And then Thomas Newton, the DP, the director of photography, was really into making sure that everything inside the body was actually lit brightly. Oh. And it wasn't quite so mysterious, but it was more surgical in a way, so that it was almost clinical. That was sort of the intent, but still it was it needed to feel really raw. So there was playing around with stuff there too, because everything in the outside world is so bleached. Yeah. And then you're inside the body and all of a sudden everything's crystal clear and contrasted nicely. And like you seeing extreme close-ups of the puncture in the lung and the air going in and out and the little bubbles forming. Yeah, that's what it did me in. The stuff that you might not necessarily think of adding if you were doing it digitally, but doing it real underneath a layer of slime and having this liquid impact that liquid and do this sort of reaction gave it like a whole nother level of realism, being uncomfortable. Yeah. Which was fantastic. And then the idea with Mark, when he gets hit, the hole itself creates a problem. And then the wound in the lung, when he's taking air into the lung, it's also going into the chest cavity. So the chest cavity is filling with air and that air is pushing the lungs down and off to the side. And that's when we use the same cavity to push the lungs out from the center. And we actually have the heart moving at the same time. And that the open space in the middle gets bigger. And he's basically suffocating because he can't inflate his lungs. So George Clooney has to take this big old needle and stick it into Mark's chest and then open the valve on it so that he can release the air that's inside the cavity so that the lungs can reinflate. But you can't leave that open because you're out in the elements. And
that's some dusty air.
Yeah. We actually sculpted this big torso prosthetic for Mark Wahlberg so that we could stab it with a needle.
Oh.
And then we realized if we took the needle, we could turn it into like one of the fake hypo needles for surgery and make the even that big long needle compress into the body of the base of it, because there's a stem and a valve on that. So it gave us a little bit extra length. So we could get the first couple inches of impact by using this redesigned needle. And then we had like a half version of that. And then we had just a stub of that you could glue to his chest with the tape around it. And that helped kind of hold everything together.
Yeah, the sound design is amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
When that needle thing's happening, it's like, it sounds almost like a cracking rib.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he opens it, there's like a release of air, but there's almost like a pop of pressure at the top of it every time. And Mark totally sells it and totally makes it completely believable.
Yeah, he's it's not that I don't think Mark Wahlberg's a strong actor. I think he was in a lot of like really powerful movies at like a consistent time, like in a short span. Like I hadn't seen Boogie Nights until last year. I'm ashamed to admit. Please don't come after me, film bros. And he's so good in that. And I was watching him here in this, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's so good in this. Like, my era is sort of like, now he's in Daddy's Home, which is fine. And a fun, probably way more fun and cool and air conditioned. But, I just didn't know what he was capable of as an actor. And you were telling me, and I had seen this on the behind the scenes too, is when they do the electric shock like torture scene with Mark Wahlberg, that they used like a chiropractor electrode and actually sort of electrocuted him.
Well, did the same stuff that you would do with a chiropractic thing. You can adjust the
intensity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if I'm recalling correctly, I believe it was his idea.
That makes sense.
To do it because he really wanted to feel it.
Wow.
And I think he had said in the beginning too that he wasn't quite certain about wanting to do all the military training in the beginning either.
Yeah.
And he got really into it and really grounded and became really real about everything. And he has the most his character has such a great story with just being a new dad and all the conflict. And it's like for him to be the age he was and to be able to show all that in his eyes on camera and then do that torture scene and have you really feel pain, emotional as well as physical, I thought was super impressive.
Yeah.
Did
you relate at all as a new father to your third and awesome child who was 2 at the time? Me?
Yeah, I'm just glad that they weren't out in the middle of the desert with all the rest of us, because that would be no fun.
If little baby me was like, yeah, girl, let's go. Yeah, that's fair.
Want to play with the cow?
I'll play with the cow.
Yeah.
Maybe. No. Did mom ever come visit or anything?
No, because it was literally, we'd only go for like a day or 2 at a time.
Yeah. And it's, it's a bit of a far drive from here. Yeah.
And we had a lot going on at home.
Yeah.
So
3 kids.
Yeah.
In speaking to the anatomy of figuring out, the anatomy at this point in time, and there isn't, references other than books, and like, that's so awesome. You were able to work closely with a doctor. It's multiple levels of like people really caring about what they're doing. Yeah. You're getting medical advice. The movie's getting military advisors. Catherine's like going ham on all her models and really making it realistic. So everything's super real. But with that is like, how did you create these organs? Like, how I rephrase this, how is it that you were investigated by the FBI and the Mortuary Association? How did that happen?
Okay. Well,
this is a famous story where my dad's like, yep, this thing happened with the FBI from 3 Kings. And I'm like, what?
It was, it all came about because there was no precedent for doing the bullet through the body shot. And David's like, do you think you can do this? And I said, yes. And every time I would see him in the production office at Warner Brothers, because we would go there off and on for stuff, I passed him in the hall. So you figure out this bullet through the body thing yet? I'm like, yep, working on it. And at one point I started joking that you were going to do that shot with the apple, with a bullet going through it. And we're going to use a real bullet and we're going to use a cadaver. And like, because we were using all these cadaver books as reference.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, this is what we're going to do. And I think David believed me for maybe a split second. And he's like, what? And I was like, no, but that's our goal, is to make it look like that. And it became a running joke though. And we would always sort of reference or riff on the idea of, we're going to take a dead body and we're going to shoot it up. And this is going to be amazing. Again, just being stupid, and David did an interview, I think it was Newsweek or something. And he referenced a dead body. And I don't know what the exact conversation was, but they printed something that basically inferred that that's what we did. And I had said something stupid. So the FBI got involved and they knew that we were shooting in Arizona. So the Phoenix Bureau of Missing Persons got involved because the story just kept growing and it was assumed that we had taken a homeless person off the street of Phoenix and shot them up and used that in the film.
You killed a real person and then used their body in the movie?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So then we were like, no. The whole idea was to make it look like a dead body. Like we'd use a dead body, but make it... we couldn't say anything right. And the Mortuary Society of America came after us and said, that's disgusting and that's immoral to take someone's loved one and shoot them up with a gun and use it for your film. And it's like, Warner Brothers said that there were people jumping the back fence, on Barham, going over the fence and finding the production office and wanting a scoop from production about the use of a dead body in their movie. So they asked me to write up a letter that described what the materials were, how we did it, how we filmed it, and everything else. And this was the day, in the day before, there were fax machines. And that was about it. So they're like, there was no way to email this to anybody. They were like, we want you to make 50 copies of this letter. We want you to hand sign them, bring them to our office. So if somebody walks into our office again to ask a question, we can give them this piece of paper. So I had to type this thing up and I faxed it to them and got them to sign off on the wording of it. And then I had to sign 50 copies and we had to deliver them to the office. And that sort of became the official statement that diffused all the silliness and stupidity of myself and David's off the cuff kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I think my dad just recently pulled some old files from Three Kings, and you pulled some things. Let's see if we can find this sort of fax or letter or email or not.
I think I actually pulled the article from Newsweek too. Oh, that's the letter. Yeah.
Okay. So would you like to read it?
Sure. Okay.
My dad's now going to read the letter about how he did not kill somebody on the set of Three Kings.
And I have not read this since
1999, y'all.
September 30th, 1999, Alterian Studios. To whom it may concern regarding the internal body effects for Warner Brothers feature film Three Kings. Director David O. Russell's request for realistic and responsible violence teamed with makeup effects artist Tony Gardner's knowledge and attention to detail, combined with Dr. Stephen Corbett's accessibility and willingness to consult, have created a one-of-a-kind effect for the Warner Brothers feature film Three Kings. Using forensic medical books and photos from Dr. Corbett's own collection, Gardner's team manufactured a fiberglass hollow body cavity and then sculpted each separate internal organ out of clay. The organs were molded, and then the final parts were cast out of translucent silicones, and vinyls. All of these organs were designed to reconnect back together and stay anchored into the false torso cavity. The heart and lungs were articulated with air bladders, and the torso had access from behind for a puppeteer to get his hands into the backside of the lungs to collapse the whole form. The imaginary bullet's path was mapped out in advance, and all the silicone material in the path was eliminated. This new trough was filled with a section of material that could be pulled back into the trough from below, giving the appearance of the bullet's path cutting through the organs. The gallbladder was a hefty trash bag, and the bile was green-tinted methyl cellulose, a food additive commonly found in milkshakes and gravy. A single layer of clear slime over the top, a few well-placed lights, and Russell, Gardner, and Corbett are the real three kings of medical reproduction. Tony Gardner.
We three kings who put this bile in a stomach.
But part of this comes from the fact that you have the Newsweek article that David...
I see some emails, or not emails. I don't really know. It says real or fake, and then
I think these were some of the inquiries that were coming into the production office.
Saying no real corpses were harmed in the making of this movie.
Director David O. Russell is quoted in Newsweek magazine stating that he shot bullets through real cadavers to achieve some of his effect shots for the film. I also heard that the Arizona State Police, where the movie was shot, has called Warner Brothers in regards to some missing person reports. Heard that the Mortuary Society of America, or something like that, called the studio heads as well to complain about their unethical activities. Has anyone else heard anything on this? If so, please let me know.
I have a fax cover sheet as well to Kelly from you. Hi, Kelly. I hope that all is well with you and no one has gone to prison yet. Here's the description that you asked for. I hope this all works for you all. If not, let me know what you want altered. Yeah. Take care, Tony Gardner.
Yeah. There's just different things. A comment by Russell in a Newsweek interview was apparently misinterpreted by writer David Anson. The story that the filmmaker used a human cadaver in one scene was then picked up by the Associated Press and by entertainment news outlets the world over. No cadaver was used, studio spokesperson Mark Reyna tells the New York Daily News. A prosthetic was used with special effects for the bullet. No corpse was used. It just goes back and forth. The director now says of the cadaver, quote, I was fooling around when I said it. I was fooling around in the sense like, how do you think I did it? I think there was an honest misunderstanding, he tells the news. The intention of the shot was to make it look like a bullet going through a corpse. It would be unethical to use a corpse like that to achieve the effect. We had to build prosthetics.
Well, to me, it sounds like y'all
had some fun.
Quite a stir in the late 90s.
It's funny because they started doing shots like that on medical shows, and they would call the inside the body shot the Three King shot.
Wow.
As a point of reference. And then it became standard, and then it just became a, internal shot. But it's like, I guess we started a trend. I don't know.
Look.
But David wrote it in the
thing. And you're the ones who figured it out. Yeah. And now so many people have taken inspiration from that and made medically real stuff. We have photos here. That's horrible. I'll put a disclaimer at the beginning of the episode. But we'll show a lot of these B-roll shots. It's this is the corpse, half corpse.
That's the organs getting assembled. Yeah.
That's horrible.
That's working down into the chamber around the heart.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, be sure to check out, if you can stomach it, pun intended. That was horrible.
But if you're an anatomy student,
it's quite good.
The flip side would be that they'll pick it apart.
Oh yeah, if you go tell us what you see now.
Tell us what you did wrong. It was a long time ago.
I don't feel like you really did anything wrong. It's so disgusting. And you know what? I said this to my dad, and I love Guillermo del Toro. And when he was doing all the not all of them, I didn't really see that much of the BTS or interviews, but basically it was like they really paid attention to the anatomy for Frankenstein recently.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of half of a man and a face that sort of like reanimates and comes alive, and I thought it was going to elicit, when I heard how careful they were about the anatomy, I thought it was going to elicit the same feeling I had watching this, but it didn't for some reason.
Because it
wanted
was a
it to.
character and alive, maybe?
Yeah, maybe it's that.
had a
like
face?
it had a face, and it's obviously in a much different context, but I still think there's something to be said of like there's something dark and twisted about Frankenstein as well, of taking something that was lifeless and now you're reanimating this person. But also maybe it was just like, we're really up and close in this movie with what you're doing.
Yeah, and you're up and close and personal with all the characters too. I think you're invested in them emotionally.
Very much.
So I think seeing something happen inside their bodies has more value, more weight, more consequence.
Was it scary? Did you talk to like an actual FBI person?
I think I had to do a couple phone calls. Yeah.
Is that scary?
No, it was entertaining because it was, we've been through this before.
But the FBI?
Well,
The
with
police
different groups.
for sure.
With the police a couple times, yeah. But the FBI, I think with Adam Rifkin, when we did A Tale of Two Sisters, I think they came to his house and somebody had reported his dailies.
What happens in that movie?
There's a baby doesn't make it to full term. So there's a fetus in it. And
They thought you stole a fetus?
I don't know what they thought, to be honest, but they came to Adam's door and said, "Is this true that you blah, 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 and you had a fetus in your film?" And I don't think they were really clear. So Adam basically said, "Yeah, it's in that jar up there on the mantle. See it?"
Oh my God.
So I think they took him in the jar and had a conversation.
Oh my God.
And he had to like show them that it was silicone and fake. And all
Yeah,
that
he's like,
stuff.
"Here, squish it."
Yeah, and nowadays I feel like what we do is more commonplace, and the understanding of what we do, thanks to the
So
internet,
true.
is so much more commonplace. But back then,
No.
there was nothing. Like we're using medical textbooks as reference
And
to
literally
do the work,
surgery photos. And now it's like you could Google.
and we couldn't even use the surgery photos because we weren't allowed to keep
Right.
those. We just got those for color reference,
Right.
And that was it. And
That's
we had to
so
drive
crazy.
to his office to look at them,
Right.
and then they were taken away.
As it should be.
Yeah. So it's like there was a completely different world back then. And then now it's like I could probably Google open heart surgery
You
and
can.
see every single detail. I
Yeah.
could watch somebody's colonoscopy on camera and get all the colors and everything right because it's all happening right there and I can copy it.
That's crazy.
But back in those days,
Not available.
no,
Not
nothing.
an option.
Nothing.
That's really crazy. How long did it take you? Like, that's a lot of work of like driving out to the doctor and looking at books and stuff. Did it take you a long time to figure this out?
Yeah, but then it was great because Dr. Corbett had a lot of medical books at home that we could borrow.
Oh,
And
nice.
some of those had surgery photos and stuff like that. And he's like, it just doesn't give you the true. He was really into being really realistic. And I
That's
so
cool.
appreciated that. And that's exactly what we needed,
Yeah.
to make everything feel grounded. We didn't want it to get sloppy when you went into those scenes and have you not care.
Yeah.
Um,
It's important.
So it all adds up, and everybody cared about what they were doing too.
Yeah, I just sort of was thinking how important it is that they're showing this sort of like in the characters we know and like the American military, but also it's an insight to the damage and real life violence of guns and how that is for every single person.
And the damage that everybody takes with them mentally.
Yeah,
Like even Mark Wahlberg not experiencing guns, but experiencing the torture
exactly.
and coming out of that. He's obviously shell shocked, and a lot of his responses to things are inappropriate. But
That's
it's
kind of
all-
funny.
But it's all accurate. It was really cool that they kept that kind of stuff in there. It just, again, helped make everything feel more real. You felt the stakes were real and the
Yeah.
people were real and you cared about them.
David O. Russell does a very good job of like making small human moments in like even crazy scenes, like when George Clooney is like racing down in this bunker that Mark Wahlberg is being held in and tortured in, and everybody else is up above the bunker and shit's going crazy. And he runs into this guy who's like stealing jeans.
Oh yeah.
And there's a moment where it's like, what's going to happen? And George Clooney just kicks him the jeans. And the guy's like, cool. And he just leaves.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really fun. He does a great job.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of David O. Russell, this movie is really well known for David O. Russell kind of being a hothead and hard to work with. And there was, you know, reports of him and George Clooney really getting heated with each other. Was that something you witnessed on set?
I didn't really witness much of anything extreme on set other than people under a lot of pressure trying to make their day and everybody being in their own headspace trying to do their own job to the best of their ability. And sometimes those things intersected in rough ways, and it was really all about communication. And when the clock was ticking at the end of the day, I think communication kind of goes out the window because it turns into, we got to be shooting. And I think technical decisions also are made that are poor at that point in time. I wasn't privy to seeing a lot of stuff go down, but I know that people were under a lot of pressure. And the movie was a big budget film for David. And the script was rewritten from what the studio wanted to see. And the studio was represented on set all the time.
Oh, that's so annoying.
So there's like just a community of people behind the camera. It's like it felt more like shooting a commercial sometimes, where there's a bunch of people there to like make sure
you're not messing it up.
Yeah, because the tone was a really tricky one, and everything feels very real, but there's humor and horror and
satire.
Drama and comedy, and everything's mixed together. And to keep track of all that and make it work, I think is really difficult. And my hat's off to the editors as well.
Really good editing.
Yeah, but like I said, we were in and out of set.
I see.
More often than being a constant presence.
I see.
So we missed a lot of
drama.
What we read about in the
like
papers
them
later.
getting into an all-out brawl, supposedly.
Yeah, I don't know that happened. I have no point of reference.
Yeah, there's a quote from Jamie Kennedy somewhere where saying that like it didn't actually get physical because he was there, but you never know.
No. I remember people like struggling to get shots right before the sun's going down. I remember when Spike got wounded, we had him in a gator and we were running back to the trailer, and I'm cleaning his skin while we're driving, and I put the appliance on in like 10 minutes and get all the blood on, and we get him back out there, and the sun's almost down, and they wanted to see the wound and stuff like that. And Spike lays down, and the sand at this point is freezing cold, and his body's doing this shaking because the cold's going right through him. And it's like, how are they going to get what they want? So there was always layers involved that you didn't think about.
Yeah.
It was a tough one for everybody, I think. But I think everybody's hard work is up on screen.
Yeah, and really paid off. All the stress.
And the fact that it's timely still says
sadly.
a lot. Yeah.
But yeah, it really is. Like watching it right now, I was like, oh my God, you wouldn't know. Unless, like, besides the specific, like it's sort of like Desert Storm.
Yeah, it feels like you could take the story and put it in another environment and it would still
be so true.
Yeah, because the characters are so good.
Yeah, and
their dilemma
and your empathy towards all the people involved by the powers above is crazy. Speaking of Spike Jonze's character, you've always told me just like amazing things about who he is as a human being and great to work with. But was his, he has shrapnel in the eye. Was that prosthetic? And there are other prosthetics, like when George Clooney's has a bullet in the arm. Were those now silicone then?
No, everything was foam latex.
Girl, it looks so good.
The thing that helped was the fact that everything was so dirty.
So true.
Because you'd match all the skin and stuff.
And then just
and realize, oh yeah, George shaved his arm so that we could put this down.
That's nice.
Which was amazing. Do we have time to lay hair? I don't think so. Let's kind of do something, but then we've got to put blood on it and we got to put dirt on that. And it's like, okay, there's so many layers.
Yeah.
It's great. And then it was like, oh wait, can you see the wound? Because there's all this junk on his whole arm at that point. But yeah, the environment definitely saved us.
Wow, it looks really good. I thought it was silicone maybe.
Thanks. Like the guy in the first hit when he's like, are we shooting?
Yeah.
That prosthetic ends under the jawline. So everything that you see is foam from there down.
Wow.
And then, you know, yeah, the whole show is foam latex.
Wow, that's crazy.
Silicone, you could cast objects at that point. Nobody figured out how to plasticize it and do skins and make it glueable.
Wow.
So we were decades away.
Yeah, you weren't there just yet.
No, we were just excited to be able to use silicone though.
Yeah. And so then there's that one point where, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his character name, I think. Nope, that's a different guy. Sahid is maybe his name in the movie. But
the green?
The guy who tortures Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
So he's talking about his 1-year-old baby who had been killed by the war. Was the baby that you filmed also foam?
No, that because it was a prop.
Yeah.
That was silicone.
Oh, because it's an object.
Yeah.
See,
so it's silicone
babies
body.
Are objects.
It's like anything that could be
category.
an organ or a head or whatever. If there's a ability to make it out of silicone.
So it's a silicone baby.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Did you name it?
Actually, to be honest, now that we're talking about it, it might have been gelatin because that was more standard.
How do you make a baby out of Jell-O?
I had done a baby out of hot melt vinyl, the stuff that they make fishing lures with, way back when for another movie, and realized that there were certain tricks with different vinyls and stuff where you could get them to look more translucent because of the material, and you could paint them with oils that would stain down into it and it would make it look more translucent. So we were always kind of experimenting with stuff like that. And I think like some of the organs are silicone skin with polyfoam, and I think a couple were urethane, but most everything had a silicone.
Wow.
foundation.
When you say stuff like this where you're like, oh, it's a gelatin baby and oh, it's a vinyl baby, like I just physically like cannot comprehend how the fuck you do that. Like
you're just casting a different material into a mold. So we had a mold of a baby. To be honest with you, the baby that dies that has the ceiling fall cave in on it in the scene when Saeed is talking, was one of the babies that we had made for ER, which George Clooney was on because we were making babies for that whole show way back when. So we had like preemies and newborns and a 2.5-year-old. We had all these different molds. And when they said, oh, we need like a 1-year-old baby, it's like, oh, hey, we have something that I think George already has experience working with. And then we cast it in the appropriate skin tone. And they gave us a picture of a little kid to match the hair. And the little kid had like a cute little bowl cut. Mm. So we did that. And then they vaporized it. They crushed it under. They literally dropped real heavy stuff on it to get the crib breaking and everything having literally an impact.
It's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And still so relevant. Like, it's sad. You can it's online every day. Yeah. That's the craziest part of watching this movie is like, I know all these things were so groundbreaking when this came out and you didn't have anything at your fingertips. And now it's like, that's exactly what's at our fingertips.
Yeah, you can see it.
Speaking of George Clooney, had you met prior?
I don't know that we had actually met on the set of ER, but once we got on this and we were on set, we started talking about it, and we agreed that we both knew enough about medicine to be dangerous because we knew enough to sort of get stuff right, but we didn't really know enough to do it properly. So when there would be the valve or this, I'd say, I think it needs to go in here. And he's like, oh, no. Well, when it should go right here. And it's like, okay.
Sure, George.
And then we'd go, well, maybe we should ask the medical consultant. And then we'd ask him and he would clarify everything for us and tell us why and the specifics of things, which was really good.
Know.
So we both got a little more medical education
No, that's good.
on the show.
I used my sister as sort of a medical consultant for our movie of like, you know, if you get, because she's getting her PhD in biological anthropology. And I'd be like, when you get stabbed here, what happens with the blood?
And
like,
we use it for the same thing now too. So.
yeah, very important. It runs in the family.
Yes.
Blood runs in the family. You could consider it flesh and blood and bone.
Wow.
Oh my God, it's the name of the podcast.
What a great idea.
And going back to those inside body shots and going back to color grading, when you guys were being so specific about like the color you needed to have from the realistic bodies, did you need to take into account for anything that they were going to do with the film? Like, you know, there was a lot of like over processed stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we shot tests where we would test different colors on a white card, then on somebody's skin, and then on somebody's skin with dirt, and film all that out in the desert in the light that they were going to shoot it in.
Jeez.
And then they would go and do the processes, the different processes they wanted to try on film, and see, because we had samples of each blood on this white card, and each one was numbered.
Oh.
And then they could go, okay, so if we use this process, we want to use blood number 6. And if we're going to do this process, maybe for interior shots, we want to go to blood 1 so that it looked consistent in camera all the time based on the process.
That's really
With
cool.
the process out impacting the way the blood was presented to the people, I guess.
Wow. So you had to really be organized on your bloodness.
Yeah. And then we ended up creating a color just for that movie. And then
Did you name it?
Jim Bikey named it. And I think he still sells it.
What's it called?
It's called Three Kings Blood.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my God. You can go buy Three Kings Blood right now.
Yeah, you can.
This is not an ad.
And there's a couple of the different color values that are part of that.
Oh my gosh, we should test it out. We should test it out. I think we should. Well, we've already we could go on and on about this movie because there's so much.
What else is there? There's the pelicans. I know that.
Yes, there's oiled up pelicans and an oiled slick as well. You sculpted some pelicans.
Yeah, we had to, they wanted to show like a flock of pelicans caught in an oil slick that was on water and basically dying. Jamie Kennedy's character is trying to keep Nora Dunn's character occupied while these guys are doing what they thought was going to be a quick morning road trip to steal some gold. And then it all goes to hell. But he's driving her around in different directions, trying to keep her occupied so she's not catching on to what they're doing. And at one point he stops at this sort of like lake bed that's mostly dry, and there's still water towards the one end of it, but there's a lot of oil on it. And there's all these pelicans caught in the oil, and some of them are moving their heads or their wings, and some of them are already they're already dead off to the side. I think we had like 3 that could move, but we built these cable controlled pelicans. We had all the cables running to this one area, and they had put scrub up and stuff like that and a little blind for us to hide behind to pull all the levers to make the stuff move. And they would, drive up and look at them, and we'd make them move around and stuff like that. But I think we all forgot that the whole set was man-made, and that the ground and everything was messed up. And we realized at a certain point that we pulling the levers were kind of sinking.
We 3 kings are sinking in the dirt.
Yeah, it was because everything was manufactured on top of the existing ground. It was really super soft. So the actors didn't have to step out into it, but
you guys did.
When they finally said cut and it was time to get out of there, it was kind of an effort to get out. We had waiters on and stuff, I think, for part of it to like set them up. And then when we got behind everything to puppeteer, I think we'd taken the waiters off so that we could get smaller and be in this like sort of little clean zone. And then it all just it kind of went to hell.
Got messy.
Got a little messy, yes.
Yes, and there's one very important thing we forgot to talk about.
What?
There is a very important cameo in this movie by one Doug Jones.
Oh, yes. Doug Jones, yes.
Doug Jones makes an appearance in Three Kings. Would you like to talk about it, Dad?
Yeah, I would like pitch Doug Jones for anything in any movie all the time, just as an excuse to work with Doug again. And they wanted these dead Iraqi soldiers half buried in the sand. And I showed them a picture of Doug, and they're like, okay, well, he's got white skin and red hair. So
no,
no thanks. I said, no, we'll do makeup on him. We'll make him look really gaunt, and he's going to be like greened and browned out because he's dried out in the sun, and we'll do a beard stubble, and we'll color his hair, give him eyebrows and the whole deal. And they're like, okay. So we drove him out and made him up, prosthetic makeup, half buried him in the sand. And we'd also made a dummy of a body that was burned. And so Doug got to hang with the burned body.
Cute.
And they're just, the guys, the three main characters are walking through this area and they're seeing the effects of war, and they see these two bodies. And Doug gets a nice little close up.
Yeah, he does.
And that's it. Yeah.
It's I think it was good casting though, because he has those skeletal like features.
Yeah. And then we just made him bonier.
Yeah.
We made him really gaunt. We made him look dead. And I was like, the best thing about Doug is he's thin to begin with. So if we build up his bone structure in his face, his neck's going to look really skinny. And unlike a fake body, you can do, if you want to move him around or use him in another location, we can change some stuff up, and you can get more use out of this one person for that day. And that was kind of the idea. And then they got that one shot and they're like, oh, this is really powerful.
It is.
And all we need. And so he really only worked that one shot, and it was great. But we got to hang out in the desert pollution for a day. So it was awesome.
You guys have been everywhere together. Arizona, China,
Romania with Galgameth, and a couple different places.
It's cute.
Yeah. And then he worked with Spike again, actually, on Adaptation. He was the orchid thief, the title character. And
guess what?
What?
We'll need to talk about that on the podcast, but I have not seen that movie.
Well, then we'll have to watch it.
And then we'll have to talk about it.
It's really good.
Oh, I know it's good.
Really good.
I've read so much about it.
When Nicolas Cage plays himself and his twin. And when we went to cast Nicolas Cage, we did it at Spike's office.
Oh.
And Spike said, hey, did you ever see my inspiration for being John Malkovich for the puppeteer character? I was like, no. And he goes, oh, let me show you. And he pulls out this old Cinefex magazine. He opens it up to this page about this movie called The Blob. And there's this guy with little round glasses and a goatee and his hair pulled back in a ponytail and a wetsuit. And it was me. And he goes, this is my inspiration for the puppeteer. And it's like, what the?
So you're telling me that in being John Malkovich, Spike Jonze used your likeness as the look for John Cusack's puppeteering look?
Apparently.
That's hilarious because I just watched Being John Malkovich for the first time last year. I had no idea what this movie was. And literally when I watched that stuff, I was like, oh, it's just like my dad.
Oh, seriously?
Yes. I was like, wow, they really got it down. Like he's doing his marionette maquettes.
Yeah, I had no part in that. I was just like, how do you style your hair and stuff like that?
Oh my God. I was like, I feel like I've seen this before.
The best part, though, to me, is bringing it all full circle is when Three Kings started and we life cast Spike. I didn't know anything about him or who he was or what he did or anything else or his videos or anything. They just told me he's really cool. We hit it off great and I really liked him. And whenever I would go to set to do his makeup, because he was in different stages of the shrapnel makeup a couple times. I'd be doing his makeup and we would just be talking and I'm like, so, how's it all going? He's like, it's going good here, but I really need to be back in LA. I really need to be editing my movie. And I'm like, is this another performer that wants to be a director? What the hell's going on? And I was just like, okay, I'll humor this guy. I have no idea what he's talking about. And I'm not going to ask 100 questions. If he wants to talk about it, great, but I don't want to pry. And he just kept saying, I'm in post-production and I got to get all this stuff done in my head. Part of my head is in editing and part of my head is making sure this character is good for David because I'm not really normally an actor. And I'm like, what is going on? And it turns out he literally just shot Being John Malkovich.
Wow. And
he was in post-production on that.
Crazy.
So he was trying to do two things at once. And apparently, like David O. Russell had auditioned all sorts of people to play Spike's part, Vig. And in the end, David went to the studio and said, I really want Spike Jonze. And they're like, so you're telling me instead of all these established actors, you want your friend who's never acted before? He's like, yep.
Yep.
So I mean, there's a lot of pressure to make sure everything
Yeah.
was good, and they all felt it, and they all cared. So they all did it,
Yeah.
but Spike even said, I'm always hoping I'm doing the right things and I'm true to the character. And I actually recently just watched some footage from back when he was on set, and he was talking to somebody. They were kind of interviewing about the movie as Spike Jonze, but he was talking like the character. He had a bit of the accent and the twang and everything else. I'm like, okay, this dude was actually really in it. This is really good.
Yeah.
It was cool to see it. I don't know that he was even aware that he was that
Invested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool to see.
He reminds me of lots of people who I know who ended up joining like the Marine Corps and stuff.
That character?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm not saying that to harp on people I know's intelligence, but like a lot of times that's ways that you can pay for college after high school. And so some people, it was just like, oh, we're shooting guns. Like, and then you're in it and you're like, oh no.
Honest to God, my favorite part of the movie is when they're all talking about, their jobs back home.
Yes.
When he says something I think George Clooney says something about you guys can all go back to your day jobs. And it's, it cuts to Mark Wahlberg, and he's in an office trying to open toner for a copy machine, and it gets all over him. And Ice Cube's character is throwing luggage onto one of the tracks that, puts the luggage onto the airplane, and it opens up and he's got to close it and fill it. And then it cuts to Spike's character, and he's got like a mullet and a baseball hat, and he's shooting guns, and he's shooting stuffed animals on a burned out parked car. And it cuts back to him in real time, and he's like, I don't really have a day job. It's like such a good line, and the way Spike delivers it is hilarious.
It's so good. And it's like, I think that's what's cool too, is like the film like touches on all kinds of people who are joining the military.
Yeah. And are all having this common experience now. And you find out that no matter what your background is, you're all human, and they all have compassion, and they all ultimately care for people more than anything else. So it's such a nice statement in the end. And I think it's hilarious too that George Clooney's character becomes a military consultant for Hollywood
movies. Yeah, that's so funny. I was like, oh my God. And you know what? That's what happens though. And we need people like that.
Yeah, it was great.
And so it was probably like super meta, because he's like, okay, now I'm the military consultant as he's talking to the military consultant.
And I think as they were writing and shaping things while they were filming, I think that guy's character in real life became part of the Archie character.
Yeah, I saw that
degree.
And a BTS thing of like they really wanted to make it seem real, and that guy's stories really lent itself an experience. I think I could be wrong, but I didn't see Three Kings nominated.
I don't know what was
the
nominated.
Academy Awards. Well, you should have been freaking nominated for makeup effects, because
I don't know what
insane.
you would call that back then. I don't know that it would be makeup.
That's true. They didn't really have a category.
It may be visual effects or something like that, but everything was practical.
Yeah.
And if anything should have been nominated, it's the guy that did all the practical stuff. All the explosions and the car rigs blowing up and flipping and having the confidence to have actors right there, and David shooting it with a lens so that it looks like they're closer to the blast than they are, and stuff like that. Stuff like that is just so beautiful. And then even the gas bombs blowing up in air.
Oh, that was so cool.
And Marty Breslin, the special effects guy, explaining, I'm going to get a giant crane, and I'm going to swing out a bag of plaster with squibs in it. I'm going to blow up a bag of plaster in the air, because it's going to give you the perfect cloud that you need that's going to continue to dissipate. And he was right. It's like this guy knew everything. That's fire, cool. The air mortars in the ground for the cow, everything was just
he really knew
dialed in, and he had a great sense of humor, and he was fantastic. I learned so much from that guy.
Aw.
Yeah, he was really cool.
I love that. And then being John Malkovich won an Academy Award, didn't it?
Did it?
I think it won some big award, which is funny because Spike's like, look, I got to go edit this movie, you guys. And then that movie's just so great.
I think the Three Kings was kind of controversial on a lot of levels at the time.
Totally. I keep thinking
for a
about
lot of
that.
reasons.
I keep forgetting about that, because it's before I was a conscious human being, like living that experience. It was ahead of its time. And now it's like a product of time. Yeah.
It's fascinating that it stands up. But there's movies like that still do that. It might be hairstyles or something that don't hold up, or clothes, but movies like this where everybody's in military clothing for the most part, and everything's fairly simple in other clothes, it's like it becomes timeless. You know? There's movies like Work on the Rock and do kind of a lot of the same stuff, and the parts where people are in their military fatigues and you're in that section of the movie feels like it could be yesterday, and then in other sections you're like, that guy's haircut and those clothes, it's like, okay, we're going back to that time period. But this doesn't really have as much of that. It's cool to have been a part of.
Aw.
I met a lot of people I like.
Yeah, and got to keep working with and still work with today, which is very cool. Is there anything else you would like to share?
No, I think that's it. I think movies like this that challenge you as an artist, when you work with people that are inspiring, I think you rise to the occasion and do really good work. And it was a pleasure to work with a bunch of people that really consistently rose to the top and pushed each other to try new things.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
You know?
That being said, thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of our podcast. We hope to bring on more guests this year. My feature film is sort of wrapping up post-production as we speak, and I'll be able to plan a bit better for episodes ahead. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for everybody who's been listening, but also watching on YouTube. We were finally able to apply for monetization. And so if you're watching this, there will be ads on YouTube, but it'll all benefit the podcast, and it's all very exciting. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.